So let's look at today's agenda. Marco will start us off by explaining the DSolution On-Demand technology, followed by some use cases. Then Ellsworth will go through the security of on-demand computing, and we'll finish off with the cost efficiency. Start us off, Marco.
Thank you very much, Kim. Hi, everyone. Starting off with this webinar, I'm going to try to give you a bit of an overview of the technology that we've taken some time and invested a lot of effort into putting together, DSolution On-Demand Cloud, going over some of the tech details and what makes it kind of unique in a way, as well as want to dive in some use cases and after that with me. All right, starting off with the cloud technology itself. One of the most important things here that I wanted to actually touch point on are the three main the three main features that constitute our platform. Starting with the most important cloud feature and what makes cloud what it is today is the fact that it's self-healing and fault tolerant. What that means, it means that it basically does not fail. How is that achieved? It's achieved by putting a lot of effort and a lot of technology into eliminating single points of failure. Every time that you have a single point of failure, that basically puts you at risk of either losing data or the machine going down, whatever reason, everything that we've come to expect from using physical machines in the past. So that is the route that everybody's going nowadays. The second feature that is proper to us, we've actually chosen to go all SSD in our cloud platform. All SSD means faster, more performance, faster read-writes on the disk side. It basically alleviates the system to the next level. Third, your point is the KVM virtual technology. It is the underlying technology, the backbone of our cloud infrastructure. We have chosen this Linux virtualization platform as KVM, sort of like it is like VMware in a way, where we've made this choice because of the enterprise-grade technology as well as the open platform that it is. A lot of systems are compatible with it, as opposed to using something proprietary as VMware, Hyper-V from Microsoft, and so forth. Now I'm going to just go ahead and show you the. Actually, I do know that Kim has a question for you first.
Yeah. So before Marco goes on, we would like to know if your organization is currently relying on virtualization. So please tell us if your organization is or isn't relying on virtualization, or maybe you just don't know. Maybe it's complicated. Don't worry, we're not here to judge. Just share us your situation.
Thanks, Kim.
Okay, so thank you for your answers. Marco will now continue.
Very well. Going back to our resilience and self-healing, I'm just going to explain how our architecture is built. This is a sample graph, showing how, at a smaller scale, the architecture itself. Starting off from the top, we have the network, and then on a typical scenario of a physical server, what we became used to is our hypervisor here, which we can call servers, so to say. In a normal environment where we're not in a cloud environment, we basically have our server, and then everything is running off of that particular server. Then what businesses started to do is virtualize that server and compartment it into small little virtual machines, their guest hosts, via 1, 2, 3 virtual machines. But that still lives on the same hardware. So if the disk fails, something happens, those virtual machines will not be able to operate. It is good to segregate applications from one another, but still not a fault-tolerant system in its own. What we have here is a pool of servers. We'll call hypervisor 1, 2, then there's 3, 4, and it's an endless, scaling pattern that we, that you can have. But bringing it to this format here, hypervisor 1 will have VMs living on it, they're guests, and it will be the host. Then All of this will be all connected and controlled by the brain of the cloud, be it the controller that you see on the top left. That controller will basically communicate constantly with the hypervisors, with all the cloud components to make sure everything is all right. If VM1, 2, 3, or any one of them would actually go down for whatever reason, workload will be automatically picked up by hypervisor 2. The way that this is done, not to get into too much technological detail, is that the controller will assign compute power to VM1 from hypervisor 2. The reason being is that you're just getting the compute power, be it, in other words, CPU and RAM, from the hypervisors, and the actual storage, the actual data, the processes where everything is stored is just down there in the storage network, controlled by its own brain, which is the storage controller in its own. Basically, if you can look at it as workers that have access to the same tools and that can pick up where the other worker left. So it actually starts working on a process, and if that particular worker cannot attend to the process anymore, it gets picked up by another one that knows where the first one stopped and then keeps going. So this basically happens within milliseconds, so to say, and then it's picked up as fast as a human cannot actually know that it's happening. And that kind of keeps on going all the time, and that gives us the fault tolerance that we were talking about and the self-healing. So anything happens, it gets self-healed automatically. That is basically the whole point of having the storage being accessed by all of these hypervisors and the workload distributed across the server farm, so to say. So we've actually taken a look at the cloud platform and so on. And now we're going to go to the network. Be it a data center network, we have some of the features as being able to support IPv4 naturally, as well as IPv6 on public networks. We offer also on public networks. So if your application supports IPv6 and you'd like to actually migrate to IPv6s, which a lot of businesses are doing nowadays, we can accommodate that very easily. We have multi-home 10 gig plus upstream networks to the data center, the private networking that is a 2 gigabits plus. All of these connectivity and all of these features, you will not be able to find them in an office setup. It's very hard to do that. Very rare also to find it in an office setup. So having these available to you for a monthly fee at the end of the day is one of the benefits that you're getting on top of the availability, all the security that Ellsworth will talk about, and so forth. Another point that I want to touch upon is the direct peering with all major ISPs. A lot of people talk about connectivity in cloud computing, and we're going to see the next graph basically to explain it. Here's a little bit of an idea of how direct peering not actually works. So if ISP A would basically want to make a connection to ISP B, let's say call it ISP A is whatever we work on the network, and then ISP B is the destination, be it Bell or any other company. If they were to go the route of transiting via third-party transit providers, they would actually incur costs for themselves because they would pay that transfer double. ISP A pays transfer, ISP B pays transfer as well. So for them, it's not a cost-efficient way of doing it. So that is why usually they set up a direct peering between all of them. To the end user, it does not translate in a monetary advantage. It actually translates in a latency advantage. So you will have very, very low latency by having ISP A connect to ISP B directly and access to their core switches. Our data center has direct peering with all major ISPs in the region, naming a few Tata Communication or the uplinks providers. We have also all Bell and Verizon in the US and so forth. It's basically we have direct access to all the major ISPs in North America, as well as a few of them in Europe as well. So the latency is going to be very minimal. And the advantage of using a Canadian cloud is also the proximity of it, and proximity means faster transfer, more reliable network. Now we've put together for you some compute performance benchmarks. And those benchmarks, did you have one? There we go. Some performance benchmarks for you. And we've taken an example, which is Amazon AWS M3 instances, one of the most popular instances. We all know Amazon AWS is one of the first cloud computing provider. And we've taken the exact same specification to those instances. And you can see you're running the Unix bench on an average score, of course, that the DSolution On-Demand instances are much faster. Reason being is the fact that we dedicate the resources as well as we use newer hardware and the optimization of the cloud platform as well as the isolation of the main VMs themselves translate in much higher performance. So cloud, means performance nowadays, and not like it used to be. Used to be looked at as an alternative for just for connectivity problems. So next one is, it may not seem for the more techies the most fair comparison, because here we're comparing M3 instances to our instances. We use SSD. The M3 instances do have magnetic storage, but again, please bear in mind that these are the same price. They are in the same ballpark, and comparing them about the same pricing, and actually sometimes more advantageous if you go on the bigger instances on our side, you still have that advantage. So that is what you're getting for the same price. And as you can see, lightning speed, throughput, in megabytes a second, per megabytes a second here. The bigger the instance, the bigger the processing power goes on, the more the SSDs are going to be able to keep up and write and read more. And that basically gives you that performance advantage for a price range that is, that is amazing actually. So those are the benchmarks. Right after that, we have the use cases. What it is actually good for. Well, I mean, we might all argue have our own uses for cloud computing. We've actually put together some of the most I would say popular use cases that we're used to and we're seeing on a daily basis. We'll start with the first one, business apps virtualization. If we're talking about a small to medium to large corporation, we are going to go look at virtualizing either our desktop apps, basically as remote desktop connection. You would basically just buy a screen, a dongle, and keyboard and mouse, and then connect to a cloud server that will virtualize your desktop and all your applications for it. Second is your practice management software. We all have a practice management software, a custom-built ERP, a custom-built software that runs our business, that is actually the backbone of our business. And if that particular software can be replicated on the cloud and accessed from everywhere, it will not go down. There's a lot of advantages that comes to it. You will be running on enterprise-grade hardware. It will be accessible from everywhere, and more importantly, it will actually give your business the ability to have multi-locations, to have multiple locations, and then reduce the cost. Instead of buying every time a server for each location, you would just basically have a cloud server that everybody can access from all the locations, and you wouldn't have to go through all the hassle of spending a lot of cash and CAPEX, for that. Well, accounting software and all the applications as well. We see a lot of situations where QuickBooks and Sage 50 are hosted, to be accessed, and as well as make sure that all the data there, and even QuickBooks offer their SaaS solution as well, and different adapted solutions for it. So it became sort of a standard to host it on a server or on a cloud server because of the cost implication of it. File sharing. Your own Dropbox-like or Box-like system. We do encourage people to set up their own cloud. Own cloud is a particular software that runs off of cloud servers that offers you file sharing for your company, cloud file sharing. What other scenario makes sense for cloud than file sharing, where everybody accesses it from home, from everyone with the right credentials, and then you would just pay for the IaaS cost associated to it, just the storage cost and the server cost, as well as have a third party which DSolution can manage it for you. so that you don't have to go through the hassle of getting a big file server and then have it managed by yourself. And infrastructure as a service. This just can be various reasons. You can just want to virtualize your on-site server, whatever server you have that is aging. Time comes where you need to change it, you need to buy a new one. You're looking at a 25 grand spend against 300 bucks a month or something like that. We're going to see in a comparison table right after that. It's just basically virtualizing that particular server, porting it into the cloud, paying a monthly fee, not having to deal with the hassle of fixing it or any of the hardware issues that will come and arise, after a bit of a period of time. Multi-location private networking, that is what I spoke about earlier about having multiple locations. You can also set up private network, VPN, site-to-site via tunnels from a location to another. And then we have the web servers. I think now we're going to move to the security, and I believe Kim has a question for you.
Yeah, so in order to better understand your needs, we'd like to know which systems you would be looking to virtualize. So are you looking to virtualize on-premise servers, so some hardware used by your organization, or business applications such as QuickBooks, ERP, CRM, and all of those? Do you simply want to virtualize desktops, or none of the above? Let's be honest, sometimes we just can't think of everything and we might have missed some. So go ahead and tell us your answers. Okay, great. So thank you so much for your answers. So I'll pass it off to Ellsworth for the security.
Thanks, Kim. So you guys have seen, Marco's gone over our technology, and obviously you can see that we spared no expense in setting up a very robust type of system. But you know what, for many companies, keeping data in the cloud, they've become used to it. A lot of people have adopted this technology, and it's been now a fact of life. It's a fact of business. However, there are some of you, even if you recognize the benefits of cloud, whether it be through its greater operational responsiveness, its lower cost, the adaptability that comes with it, still have concerns about its security. Well, based on conversations that we have had with our customers and even industry leaders, there's a perception that you will feel less control over your sensitive data. So some of you actually assume that the moment your data is transferred to the cloud, hackers are going to take it over. Let's be honest, in my opinion, that's a little exaggerated, but you know what? Not entirely false. The fact is, if you have forward-facing servers or endpoints that are connected to the internet, they have to be secured, just as you would secure OSs in your own on-premise solution. Now I'm not talking about our own experience over the course of the years that people have been working with us for security applications, more particular to the SMB market. Most SMBs really don't have the proper security layers put in place. With the cloud security, this actually gives you more leverage, whereas you don't have to have the responsibility of taking care of firewall policies, having to deal with endpoint protection on many different levels. The truth is, applications and data maintained in the cloud can actually be more secure than that held on on-premise system. That's because moving to the right kind of cloud system really represents a more dynamic approach to risk. The standard that we have today of protecting on-premise networks really strives from addressing attacks involved from the use of IT systems that have to A, detect, and B, prevent unwanted efforts to access our networks. These efforts are really based on a traditional view that, is a little outdated and really needs to be addressed more along the lines of how a castle is built. A castle, in its historic form, is protected by layers, much like you should be doing with your own network, or should be anyway. But the end result really is to focus on keeping attackers at bay without having to render your networks really so impervious that it makes them totally unusable. That said, real-life scenarios for the average SMB and even enterprise environments have no real pure defensive tactical system that can really be effective, especially since companies such as yours have completely digitized its internal processes and are already actively transacting and transferring data over the internet. Operational technologies are becoming way too complex for this to protect in this type of manner. And you know what? Hackers will always be one step ahead. So you know what? So through our vetting process, we believe and really recognize that the problem really calls for an entirely different type of solution. And that's where we feel the cloud comes in. Cloud computing offers really simplicity. It reduces the number of points of vulnerability, and it really makes it easier for us to keep up with technological advancements. You know, now that your company can now rely on cloud services, more such like our own, to really build and extend an infrastructure, software, applications, and services required, which really enables you to scale up your systems to a degree really not possible on-premise computing. Our platform is really meant to provide compute power, whether it be for a Windows or Linux operating system, with the added security which we are already proficient in. So what we can do is we can provide hardening at the OS layer by really packaging in proven technologies such as anti-malware, anti-exploit, and encryption, really to safeguard data at rest and in transit. Now, although we have built-in fault tolerances into our data centers, there's always, and we also have robust firewalling, it's always suggested that performances really be addressed in these type of environments. And this is offered in our backup snapshots that allow you to recover from any type of foreseen disaster. So after hearing what we've talked about, and Mark will get into a little bit more details of the cost efficiency, but you can see how a company's infrastructure being moving to the cloud can be a very attractive proposition. And the ability of cloud-based security only makes it more so. So you're now entrusting and now relying on our expertise to safeguard your environment. This can really allow a company, to really avoid tens and thousands of dollars that would be needed really to address multiple layers of security on your own on-premise systems. The capital saved can then be better served on your core business. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to pass it back to Marco, and he'll actually elaborate on the security at our physical data center.
Thanks, Els. All right, let's get that long list out. There we go. I'm just going to go over quickly the data center certifications as well as some of the assurances that we offer with this. There's a long list, but I'm not going to read through it. I'm just going to go to the most important points. Number one is a Tier 3 facility with redundancy design into it. That is, a basic requirement as well as a requirement for any business to be running their off of a Tier 3 data center. Then the second one will be the SSAE SOC 2 certification. That is basically relates to what Ellsworth was talking about with the castle analogy, where basically external auditors will come with a checklist as well as a lot of guidelines, and we'll see and we'll do an audit for a period over the 6-month extended all the way to 2 years, depending. And they will basically check all the vulnerabilities and see how the castle is actually managed, the security, and all the aspects of the business operations related to the data center as well, and to the facilities. So you only acquire that certification when you've actually met a certain degree of success into meeting all of these guidelines. Then comes where the services that are actually on it. So 24/7, 365 on-site engineers, there's security staff. Nobody gets in or out without being checked, without ID check, without their pass. There's redundant fiber optic BGP circuits. Everything is redundant. The fire suppression systems, the redundancy in the electrical grid, 2 lines coming from 2 different plants with a generator on site. everything is built with redundancy in mind. Another thing also that I'd like to point out also, if for the green ones here, it's using also 97% renewable energy. So if you love the planet, that's a good one. So that kind of sums up for the data center security. We're going to move now to the most important part, which is the money part. And I'm just going to go over getting the technology on the side here, the business advantage over, when I say move into the cloud, actually virtualized environments. Number one is we want to, and there's a lot of businesses that started to do this, moving from CAPEX, capital expenditure, to OPEX, and operational expenditure, as opposed to dumping a lot of cash into acquiring material, because the technology before it didn't used to be as reliable right now as a service. And now everything's done through the internet. It makes more sense that everything becomes an operational expenditure, a small fee per month that gives you 100% all packaged service, as opposed to capital and those hefty, overly loaded budget that have to be dumped into a project that can be done within a week or two. It's all about accelerating business by bypassing all of these hefty processes. The second one is no ongoing hardware maintenance cost. That just means that by having a cloud server, by paying that monthly fee, that we will see how much it will actually cost. Paying that monthly fee, it does not, basically you're not dealing with any of the hardware headaches, any of the shipping or any of the replacement. All of that stuff actually is done. You're done with it. And then what we've noted here is enterprise grade deployment. What that means is for that monthly fee, you have access to an enterprise grade deployment. There's a lot of people that acquire servers, acquire material. It's not just the server itself. It is the server. And then if that server is new, there's a new switch that comes with it. There's a new firewall that has to be on it. And it's an ongoing upgrade, obsolete upgrade. And then there's a lot of compromise in it. If any of you have already done this before, you know how much of a headache it is to upgrade and at the same time to start thinking about what's old and how to connect everything together, as well as dealing with those unplanned expenses that have to be done in order to make it work. So this is kind of ties into the cost efficiency. All of this can just be replaced by just one monthly fee. Now we have prepared a little kind of putting all of that CAPEX versus OPEX, the little word that's happening nowadays, into a little cost efficiency sort of table. It's a comparison. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other, but it's a comparison. We'll start with the initial cost. We took a physical server, a 6-core processor, something fairly common nowadays, 16 gigs of RAM, half a terabyte, a good server to run, small business to medium business applications, so to say. The initial cost from what we've sold in the market from $5,000 to $10,000. That is just to acquire it by getting a quote or whatever reason, whatever you want to go about it. The hardware maintenance cost, we estimated to 20% of cost from basic support. We're not talking about warranty and somebody actually sending you a part after 24 hours and a close by, not really a depot that is close by is not really insurance that you're going to get the part. That actually means that you need to pay extra support. And there is 1 hour turnaround, and all these services are extra. The management cost, this does not even tie into the hardware. There's a management cost of managing the server when it's running. All the application layers, the application layer that is on it, the services that are running, the core OS, the security hardening, the updates, the patches, the maintenance. It's like a car, it has to be maintained all the time, but a server lives only for 2 to 3 years, so it has to be maintained on a weekly basis to make sure everything is working and that it's not going to fail on it. As a comparison, we can go to a cloud server. We've taken one of the biggest instance that we're offering nowadays. We'll give you a link as well as a website. We'll communicate with you with the pricing. But the extra large, which is our biggest instance, that kind of relates a bit to the, gets the closest possible to the specs of this physical server, will deliver the same performance, and it will only cost $320 a month, and that is from day one. and it's going to cost the same price every month. There is no upfront cost for it. The maintenance cost, as we've discussed this, it's not really, let's just put it this way. Cloud is somebody else's hardware, somebody else's computer, and somebody else's problem, which means that you get delivered a healthy VM with a guarantee of 99.99% uptime, that VM is available for you. Otherwise, you get compensation for minutes or hours of downtime. It's not going to happen, but how many times do you get money back or whatever reason, certain credits back for a hardware failing on your on-premise server? And then we have the management cost. We offer full management. We'll give you the description, and you can connect with our system architects after to get the description of the management. $150. This is not about hardware. This is just on the application layer to get 24/7 support, to get updates, patches, somebody that actually goes in there, a human being that actually fixes things, as well as deals with maintenance and basic support, as well as some advanced support. So this is the comparison. Now, something I haven't actually even got into is the deployment time frame. Now, this will play around on how patient you are. For a physical server, for buying an actual server, 5 to 30 days, and I'm being we're being, let's say 5 days if everything is ready and they ship it to you and you install it the same day and you put everything on it and you start working, best case scenario. Typically 1, 2, 3 week turnaround before it's built, if it's custom built for you, sent over to you, wait for whoever comes and installs it, or if it's done in-house, it's faster. You all know and you all will relate to what I'm talking about. A cloud server, and we will see in a deeper technological kind of demo that we're going to do very soon in another webinar, more of a demonstration, live demonstration. We can spin up a Windows-based extra large instance in about 5 minutes. A Linux instance can take somewhere between 30 seconds to 60 seconds typically. It will take all the way up to 10 minutes, but this is not a day or two. 5-10 minutes, and you get into your operating system, and you just start setting it up and putting your applications on it. So that is how easy it is. Now, I really invite you to come into the next presentation webinar where we're actually going to put all of this in practice and talk about all of the features and spin up an instance altogether. So I'm done with the cost efficiency. I'm hoping Kim will tell you about the questions. I'm hoping that you can you can just give us some. If you have any questions, just put it in there, and I'll be more than happy to answer it. Whether it be business, whether it be cost efficiency, whether it be technology, Elsbeth will answer the security ones as well. And I believe Kim has one last question for you.
Yeah, thanks, Marco. So before we move on to any questions that you have for us, we would like to know if the potential time frame for your implementation. So here's the question. So let us know the potential time frame for your implementation. Is it as soon as possible, within the second quarter of the year, maybe within the third quarter, or you're still uncertain? Remember that if it's as soon as possible, go ahead and call us. We're going to answer.
Or we can do it today. All right.
As soon as you're done answering, you can type in any questions that you have for us. We're going to answer any questions that you have, and we'd like to thank you for registering. We'll be sending you a copy of the slides along with all the contact information for our security architects for further detail on the DSolution On-Demand.
Thanks, Felix. Thanks, Kim. So are they okay? Everybody's on. So all right, I'm going to just jump into the questions.
Do you have geographical diversity?
That was the same question. Okay.
Yeah.
For geographical diversity, I'm hoping you mean by multiple locations. Yes, we do offer geographical diversity. It all depends on what you would like to cover. We've actually built it in a way where we would basically, have low latency all across and you want to set up a system east and west, you could actually do it. You want to set up a redundancy point number one, and then a redundancy point 2. The answer is yes, we do. For the second question, I'm just going to go and read this one.
Go ahead.
This question says, what would be the cost to set up a QuickBooks server? Well, to answer your question, for a QuickBooks server, we recommend the smallest instance we offer. I do not know exactly the price right at the top of my head, but I do know it's in the area of the $50 a month to have a QuickBooks server. It actually just needs a minimal configuration and a Windows, it's going to be a Windows-based server, and all you need to do is just install QuickBooks, or we can just assist you doing it with our implementation team. So to answer the program is basically just a simple $50 a month, and you have your QuickBooks hosted on the cloud. Kim, do we have another question?
Do you have a partner program?
Well, we do have a partner program in place. It all depends on, a partner program as be the reseller or sort of a partner that actually, technology partner. Honestly, this would be better discussed by with one of an architects or with also one of our product managers, and we'll see how we can accommodate. If it's a technology partnership, we're always open. If it's a reselling partnership, we're always open as well. So you just reach out to us after the webinar, and then we can also discuss this.
Okay, well, there doesn't seem to be any more questions, so we'd like to thank you again for registering, and we're going to send you all the contact information to get more details on the DSolution On-Demand. Thank you.
Thank you very much.